Hi everyone, this is Quinn from Sequence Art on Instagram, and I have for you today a tutorial on how I sketch out my quilting designs using a dot grid notebook. The materials that you need for today are very simple. To start off with, all you need is a pencil and an eraser, and then a reference photo. So you can either use designs that are already created by quilters if you want to, but I want to actually create a more floral looking design, so I'm using this old charcoal of an iris that I did as my inspiration for the next quilting project that I'm going to be doing. Now, I'm going to be making a pillow, and I know I want it to be 16 by 16 inches, so I'm going to start by making a 16 by 16 square, outlining that with the dot grid notebook. I'm going to start towards the top, just in case I want to do multiple sketches on the page. Okay, so as you can see, I also put halfway marks on each one, just so that I know where the halfway point for each side is. It just makes it easier when trying to make things symmetrical or anything like that. So I also know that I want to have a 2-inch border for a special design, and then I'll have my iris in the middle. Okay, so now for sketching the iris itself. If you look at my blog post, you will see that I typically will be using only straight lines with only a few shapes of squares, triangles like this, where they're perfect right triangles, or rectangles in any direction. And these can be in any size. But those are the only shapes that I'll be using. I'm not going to be using curves or circles or anything like that. And this is especially optimized by the actual dot grid itself, because it lends itself to creating those straight lines for the actual design. So to start off with this sketch, since it is a floral, I am just going to quickly sketch out the iris itself using my reference. Okay, so here's my light sketch based off of the picture. So here's the original picture, and then here's my very, very vague sketch. And so I made it so light and vague because I'm actually going to be translating this into the more geometric shapes of the actual quilt that I'll be wanting to do. And so this can be hard, and you can maybe need to erase a lot and try to move and refigure things as you are actually making this into the geometric pattern, but I will go ahead and do that now. Okay, so this is my initial sketch. I've noticed a few things, like I wanted to make this slightly symmetrical with only a few differences, but these petals on the bottom look a little bit too uneven, and these also look not quite right. So I'm going to go and try to fix some of this sketch. Okay, so here's my second or third sketch as I went through here. And as you can see, I also added a few more details for to create little folds for whenever I actually start adding color, where I can add highlights to this part of the petal and then dark shadows to this one to give it a little bit more dimension. Now, I get to do the border. Since iris leaves are very long and straight, I kind of wanted to mimic that a little bit. So now I have a quick border design. I'm actually going to add a little bit to the background behind the iris, because instead of just having it one cloth color, I think it'd be cool to add some diamonds or something in the background, just to give it a little bit of extra visual interest. So it may look a little bit messy, but I think this is kind of what I want to go with my first sketch. It may change once I start adding color, or once I even start cutting the fabric and putting it together to see what it looks like, but I'm pretty happy with this first sketch. And so I know I want the flower itself to be purples and pinks. Irises do have I forget what it's called, but the place where the pollen is right here. So I know I want that to be yellow to add an extra color. And then I want the sides to be green. I want these leaves to be the same details that are on this pillow. So I still want to have these leaf designs off in the corners here. And then for the sides, because I want to mimic the leaves of iris flowers, I think I'll make them green. I'm telling you all of this because the next step in sketching your design is to actually work with color. I will be using the Archer and Olive colorgraphs because the best part is that you can color over them if you aren't happy with your first and original color choice. And so what I like to do is I like to keep the original sketch plain so that I can always resketch it or add to it or change it as I go, and I just sketch it again on another part of the page, and then I use that to color it in. So I'm going to go ahead and resketch it, and then I'll talk about colors. And so when it comes to color, it's important to do things like create a fabric key, where you associate a piece of fabric to the color. I talk about it more on the blog on Archer and Olive, that's linked in the description if you'd like to read a little bit more about creating a color key. So I like to use craft paper because I can put both white and black on it, and those colors will show up very distinctly on the page. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the background, since those are the colors that I am the most familiar with and I know exactly what I want to do with them. Okay, so now that I've laid out the colors where I know where I want them to go, I can now add the colors that I'm going to experiment with and try out. And so here's my first draft of my quilted pillow. So like I said, this is just my first draft, so I'll probably be making more, or I might even just be adding on to this one. So I might do things like add some shadows with the dark fabric around the side petals, or maybe extend the darkness on this bottom one, or little things like I'm thinking about maybe making the side pieces both the dark and light green, going all the way around in the frame pattern. And as you saw as I was going, I did do a little things like I took a white gel pen just to make sure I knew where each petal began and ended. When it actually comes to the quilting itself, I can always use a thicker stitch or a satin stitch to make that more obvious. So if you want to learn a little bit more about my quilting process and what I do next and how to make keys and everything like that, feel free to check out my blog post. Also, I have included a free printable of this design, or whatever the finalized design will be, and so you can go ahead and recreate this if you want to, or just use it in a design for your bullet journal. But if you do, feel free to tag me and Archer and Olive, and I'd be happy to see your recreations or whatever you're doing with your own quilting. Thank you so much! I hope you have a great day, and I hope you found that this video was helpful.